All right, guys. Today we're going to talk about analyzing athletes, and we're going to talk about some of the ways that that we do it. I'm also going to teach you guys what to do with some of the information because I think a lot of people out there, athlete monitoring is catching on, and people are looking at data. They have a lot of cool gadgets. Coach Kenn is always talking about people are over analyzing because they don't know what to do with it, and so it's paralyzation by wait uh, paralysis by analysis, right, Coach Ken? That's the word he uses. But anyway, today's show is brought to you, as always, by our friends from Dynamic Fitness and Strength. Can't tell you how much we appreciate you guys for making all this possible and for helping our team here at Lenore Ryan University get started and to win a national championship in our inaugural year. Pretty unheard of. Anyway, tagline today: less guessing means better results. Let's check it out. Bar path is something a lot of weightlifting coaches talk about, and we've talked about for years. Now, some of the strength conditioning coaches are starting to talk more about it. Not look, I know there's a few of you out there who've been talking about it, but it's becoming more popular, even by the young guys coming out of college. So as you see, Kyle Pierce, out of Louisiana, Shreveport. He did a really cool study. Him and a few other people, but they looked at the Pan Am. I think this was 2015. They looked at the Pan Ams and the World Championships, and they analyzed the most common bar paths. These are the four most common. The two in the middle are going to be they're the most popular. Number three is the most popular one used by men. Number two is the most popular one used by women. Let me get my little highlight, not a highlighter, but a laser. Looking for a laser here. Yeah. So anyway, so this one is the one used by most women. This is the one used by most men for whatever reason. But a lot of women are at type 3, and a lot of men are still at type 2. But those are the majorities. Type 4 is the least common. So if you have a very straight bar path, and a lot of people are talking about straight bar paths, then you're probably not going to be a world champion. Based on the numbers. What does bar path show us? It proves technical proficiency. A lot of us think that we have this amazing eye. There's a lot of studies recently that shows that hardly any of us have a really good eye. I mean, I'm sure that someone who's been in it, 10 years is better than someone fresh out of college, but you can't beat, these tools that we are coming out now, and these tools are getting cheaper and cheaper. So, it's also we want to find out, is the drill we're using actually giving us the correct stimulus? I think we'll show you today that at least one didn't. We also want to talk about, does it add maximal objectivity in an athlete's movement? Meaning, you might think that your athlete is lifting perfectly, but are they? And you might think a certain technique is going to give you the result you want. So by looking at bar path, by looking at velocity, by looking at a lot of these tools, you can quantify. I think there was a lot of debates by my old mentor, Don McCauley, and my friend, Sean Waxman. And I feel like if they would have sat down and looked at some of the data, some of these, clear-cut bar paths, and maybe slowed things down a little bit together, they probably wouldn't have argued at all. Anyway, also, we're going to look at the bar path also demonstrates specific flaws during the movement, like if you're forward off the floor, if you're really forward. And if you notice, if we look back, being a little forward off the floor might not be the worst thing, especially for some men. Are we getting horizontal displacement? And you're going to get some, but are you going to get an abrupt amount? As you can see, you're going to get some. It's going to come back. It's going to go back, and it's going to go in front of that original vertical line, barely, but it's going to be really close. So, and even with the typical females, it's going to come way back. It's going to go forward a little bit, but it's not going to go in front of the original vertical line. And are you out in front? Meaning, off the, as you continue the pull, are you leaving the bar out in front and then starting to look like this guy? So, means you're probably going to be in front when you catch the bar. Ultimately, it's going to help get buy-in. And now you can use bar path. I mean, today, obviously, I'm talking about, cleans, even snatches. But you can use it for squatting, for deadlifting, just to see if anyone is, abruptly getting out of alignment. So, it's not as it's pretty easy to see bar path when it comes to squatting, especially heavy ones, squats and pulls, because it's going slowly. But with a clean and a snatch, it's much harder. So now we're going to find out, are your eyes telling the truth? It doesn't really matter because it's up to the athlete to get buy-in. So even if I'm the man who my eyes are so good I can slow things down, then if your athlete doesn't believe you, it doesn't really matter. We're also going to quantify what you're trying to tell them. We're going to quantify the improvement, which that is something that your beautiful eye, your amazing eye can't do. Unless you're so good that you can give them like degrees of improvement, which you can't. And the tool we use is Iron Path Pro. It's super cheap. You can do it with your cell phone, even with your iPad. So no excuses not to do it. So let's there we go. Here we go. Here's Mallory. And so we're doing a slow pull to a faster at the top. Here is Hannah, which it looks like to me like there's some horizontal displacement, which causes her to walk forward. Let's see what else we have. Here's Mallory doing a 69. To me, looked a lot better when she just went full speed. So now we got to look at what does the bar path actually show us. So when it went slow, it looked like that straight line that we talked about. That is not a good thing, as you can see. It was pretty much a straight line until there was horizontal displacement, being really probably worse than that fourth one. So like even though we're trying to get her to like push longer with the legs, we definitely don't want to create this. So maybe not use that as a tool, or make sure she's doing it correctly. One of the two. And here she is with the 69, and you'll see that she has probably the best bar path that you're ever going to see. Comes way back, goes out, just but not in front of that original vertical line, just like number 2. All right. Hannah follows the bar path. Now her bar path is probably going to be like the number 2, except this is abrupt. You see how straight out it goes? It's not like a gradual thing. It is like, that's her, throwing her hips into the bar, which we worked on, and she did a lot better yesterday. But this is the way we quantify it. However, in all, the bar path, the line is not bad, but we just got to make sure that she's, keeps the bar close to her and pushes longer with her legs to avoid this abrupt line. I think that was it. Okay. Moving on. Now, they were doing the same thing. All right. What about velocity? What does the velocity show us? It's going to quantify each quality of speed. So like there are multiple qualities of speed. One thing I didn't put in here is Brian Mann did a great job of quantifying things at each section. There's speed, strength, speed, accelerated strength, and then of course there's absolute strength. So, but you need to be able to quantify those, and the only way to do it is with velocity. And so you can develop a force velocity profile, which is what we've done here, and I'll show it to you in a little bit easier terms to understand in just a second. So it quantifies. Also, with velocity, we're going to look at the session, the quality of the session, because if you get averages, even with snatch and clean jerk, like if you know that at 85% you're at 1.55 meters per second on average, and all of a sudden you're at 1.65, you're having a really good day. But if you're at 1.44, then you might want to consider easing back, especially if you're thinking about going hard that session. And potentially it's going to dictate the session readiness, because for the same reason, like if I measure 80% every single day and I start to see that a person is averaging whatever 1.4 meters per second, and all of a sudden one day they're at 1.2, they're having a bad day. If they're anywhere, like if they're 5% below, that's a red flag. If they're 10% below, we're cutting them off. Matter of fact, yesterday I told a kid to go home and get rest, simply because you're not doing anything good. You're breaking them down more, and you definitely want to get a good training effect. However, when you go too far, there is, the overtraining syndrome is a thing. And it can, if you really keep pushing till you have chronic stress, chronic inflammation throughout the system, you can put that athlete down for months, if not longer. So something to think about. Um, Helps quantify many other variables like power, like impulse. It's a way to get buy-in from your athletes, of course. If you sometimes they don't believe you, they're like, "I feel fast." What are you talking about, coach? And you show them, then they're like, "Oh, okay." And it's an easier way to auto-regulate. Meaning, like you want the athlete to be able to auto-regulate themselves. However, not many are going to be truthful with that. So it's a way to it auto-regulates for them. So if they're 10% slower or they're 5% slower, it just simply means we're not going to max out. We might continue the exact session. We just might not work up if it says to work up. Here's the actual. This is actually Mallory's her velocity, her force velocity profile. As you can see, there is a here's the good thing. She's one of our faster athletes, if probably the fastest athlete I have under the bar, and her movement is probably the best I have on the team. However, her not only her squat but her pulling force velocity profile is slow, especially in these lighter weights. Like my fault. So especially at these lighter weights that you see right here, let me. So at 65, that is probably at 50%, and she's only at 0.77, and then at 78 kilograms, I think this is 60, and she's already at 0.63 meters per second. So that is definitely not where we want to be. She's well below where she should be. I think this is at 65. She drops to 0.53, and then she maintains it. So luckily she's able to maintain a decent speed, as it gets heavier. But in the especially in this realm where she needs to be strong, which is getting closer to the weights that she'll actually be lifting when she snatches and clean and jerks, she's moving slowly, which you'll see. We could actually quantify it in a second. So also, potentially I've told you all these things, right? Oh, tool we use, of course, is GymAware and the Flex Unit. Both are great. The GymAware obviously is, if you have a big team like mine, it's great because it keeps a lot of data for you. The Flex Unit is awesome if you have a small team. It's easy to use. The app is super simple. GymAware is a little bit more complicated, but it's because it's doing a lot more for you. Moving on. All right. So now let's switch to tools and let's watch this and get an idea of what I'm talking about. So it looks to me like, Mallory is slow on the pull but fast, underneath. A force velocity profile will tell you. Sean actually looks like his speed is really good. So the thing with velocity, it will actually tell you if you're right or if you're wrong. We use this. I'll show you an example of a GymAware. I'll show you one of the ways we use it. That's a 0.46. However, on his final at 0.33, we had a pretty big dip, and so we cut the session. Because you don't want to just pull to be pulling. I think a lot of athletes, when they do their clean pulls and snatch pulls, they pull just to be pulling, just to get the reps and set in, and that's not going to do anybody any good. By keeping track of velocity, their intent stays high, and so especially if they start competing with one another, which is what happens a lot, and that's what you want. And with Sean being able to look every set, and he knows my force velocity is where I want it, my power is where I want it, and so he goes at it more. You won't believe how much having a velocity monitor on you will change the intent of the athlete. It changes. You have them do a 75% squat for 5x5, without, and then have them do 75% with trying to maintain that velocity, and it's a whole different ball game. The fiber recruitment is a whole different ball game as well. So it gets them to recruit more fibers with less weight. It's definitely going to emphasize the compensatory acceleration. Fred Hatfield, he came up with that years ago, even before Louis Simmons, and so it helps to quantify that's actually happening. And so you don't have to say it looks good. What is it? What does that even mean? So I'm not quite sure. How does a coach quantify movement? Now, we use Coach's Eye and we use an athlete monitoring tool that I built. This is going to be a good example of of how we quantify versus a lot of people guessing. A lot of coaches can see something's wrong. A few of them can pinpoint the actual problem. Even fewer can explain it to the athlete in a way that they can understand. Even fewer are going to get buy-in from the athlete. That's just the way it goes. And none can quantify improvement without some form of data monitoring. None of you can. Don't tell me you can. So, because your guessing is not going to match up to science. Sorry. And then we've developed a tool that makes the job pretty easy for us. So let's take a look at Coach's Eye and see. Now, this is my man Tank. It looks to me like, let's go back real quick. It looks to me like, obviously there's some hip mobility, ankle mobility issues. But it looks like a lot of things are going right. So to pinpoint exactly what it is and then to be able to target, that issue, you have to slow things down. You have to show it the athlete so you can work with them, and you have to quantify it with some actual assessments. So here we are. Right there, he's forward. As you can tell, it's pulled him forward, and you can see his feet. In a minute, I'm going to draw a circle that really shows how he likes to use, because he's super strong. He's one of the strongest kids I've ever coached for an 18-year-old. He squats well over 600 pounds, 18 years old, can pull a lot. And so what happens when he goes heavy, even though he's really improved his movement, he's going to revert back to his, using his strength. So he rips it. So you can see right there he's already on his heels if you look carefully. So get it back to where it was. Now, at the top, that's actually a pretty good position, believe it or not. Now he gets down there, and you see it just struggles to get in the position he needs to. You're going to look at his right leg. It's going to abduct quite a bit. He's also going to externally rotate, and the left leg is going to have very little movement. And by slowing things down, you can see that. And you'll see how I use Coach's Eye to point and to show you his feet. Look at, he's not getting depth, which is causing his torso to be more horizontal than it should be versus vertical. It's just causing him to have to pull it a lot higher than he really should have to. Most athletes will not have to pull it near that high. I show him a lot of Morgan's and Ryan's and Mallory's and Hannah's videos and show how they produce way less. Well, Morgan might produce equal, but most of them produce less force and less power than Tank. However, because they can move properly, they can lift heavier weights in the sport of weightlifting. So this helps me quantify that for him. And this is the tool that I built that shows him. See, as you can see, let me get the little pointer for you. So with dorsiflexion, we can look at his ankles and we can see if there's a left one. This is a made-up person, by the way. I just wanted to show you, to give you an example. And for privacy reasons, I'm not going to show you Tank's or anybody's actual numbers. But you see dorsiflexion, you could actually, there's a test where you put your toes 5 inches from wall and see if you can keep your foot flat. You want to do it barefoot and push your knee forward. Squat University, he's shown that drill and that assessment a few times. And you see here with the right leg, this is a made-up person, they could not get their knee to the wall until their toe was 2 inches. So if they can't get it at 5, you go to 4, then to 3, then to 2, then to 1. And this is just a way for me to quantify it. With hip mobility, this is internal rotation. Should be 60 degrees. This person has more than enough on the right, but not quite enough on the left. Once again, made up numbers. With hip external rotation, by doing assessment, I can see that both are tight here. Both external rotation is a little short. The supine, hamstring, just checking their hamstrings. They're tight in both. However, there's a 10-degree asymmetry, or 9 degree, almost 10. The Faber test is really good. It's just a pass or fail. Faber test is simply it is flexion, abduction, and external rotation. You take the person and you lay them supine on their backs, and you take one leg and you cross it over the knee and see if the knee that's of the leg being crossed can drop equal to or below the knee of the leg that's still on the table. So it's just a way of looking at the hip joint, really. You're looking also at the psoas, but just the hip joint in general. And believe it or not, a lot of weightlifters who have demonstrated really good mobility fail this one test. And there's some pretty good ways that Squat University has showed us how to address that. The Apley scratch test is just looking at internal and external rotation at the shoulder. Obviously, very important, for weightlifters. A 3. Let's see, over here I put some of the ways that we grade it. But a 3 means it's perfect. A 2 means they can do it, but with a little bit of bad movement. 1 means they cannot, do this Apley scratch test. Apley scratch test, you want to be able to put your right hand behind your back with external rotation and your left hand behind your back with internal rotation. They should be able to touch behind you. I'm sure if you Google Apley scratch test, I didn't make a video for every one of these. I just wanted to show you how you could quantify, like a person like Tank. If you would go and you would assess him and you would see exactly where he's lacking in mobility. And then I feel like there's enough, if I'm going to obviously shout out either Squat University or my man Kelly Starrett. They're both my go-tos. I feel like when it comes to like mobility, they've both put out enough that you guys can go out there and figure it out. I definitely, I don't know. I'm sure there's others out there that are fine, but be careful. Don't just get some random person because there's a lot of craziness out there as well. Now, when it comes to performance, we also assess them. What I look at is their comp total, their snatch and clean and jerk, compared to their strength total, which simply is their squat and their deadlift. Yep, clean deadlift. But I'm also going to add push press soon, and so, but for this one, it is their squat and deadlift compared to their snatch and clean and jerk. And then an efficiency score, this person is more than efficient. I'm simply looking for somewhere around a 67%. You can see over here. So we're just simply divide the comp total by the strength total. And I'll give you your efficiency score. The dynamic strength index, that is a way of finding out if a person is strong enough to produce force loaded versus unloaded. So you have them do a vertical jump, and one thing you can do is you can, if you have a force plate, that's the best way. So you do a vertical jump, you see how much force they have produced into the force plate. Then you have them do a isometric mid-thigh pull, have them pull as hard as they possibly can, and you look how much force they were able to produce, with the load. And so those two together gives you an idea if you really need to focus on strength or if you need to focus on more plyometrics and getting explosive, because both are important to weightlifting. The reactive strength index, take the height that you're jumping from and you divide it by the ground contact time. And I track even the jump height and 43 centimeters, and I take the ground contact time, and I keep those two because I want to continue to see how those things changes. And there, you can do it. I think that should be 45 centimeters, by the way. But I think you can do either 30, 45, or 60 centimeters is kind of a lot of people will do each and see where they start to break down. But we just take 45 and then we compare them to the rest of the team, which is, as you can see in this, this is the T-score chart, little score. All you're doing is you're taking the individual athlete at number one and comparing them to the team, which the team average is that orange line. And as you can see with muscle mass, this person is killing it. Body fat percentage, not so much. The comp total, they're killing it, so can't hate that. Strength total, they're not, so that tells me, we should, maybe if we worked on strength, since this person is efficient, by looking at their efficiency score, then this should be more of a focus on strength. Efficiency is really good, so just get them strong. The dynamic strength index is not so good. Once again, get them strong. The vertical jump is not so good, so we can do both. Get them strong. This is a person who's really good at the sport of weightlifting. So they're not explosive. They're not very strong. They're just good at weightlifting, and those people exist. There's Olympians like that. RSI score shows me they're very elastic, which is very important. That's, by the way, that is what the reactive strength index shows us, is how elastic somebody is. And so, basically you're looking at muscle spindles, which is the stretch reflex. There's other things like, there's a protein called titin that's also responsible for elasticity. But the bottom line, it might tell me that we need more plyometrics to create more elasticity. So, you need to track data. Like, otherwise you're guessing. Not now. Do you have to? No. But if you have athletes that really trust you with their careers and trust you with one day maybe going to the Olympics, one day going to play Major League Baseball or to the NFL, I feel like you owe it to them to do as much as you can and to get as good as you can. And with data, it just really helps you not to guess. Here are a few other charts I've built: body composition, the efficiency chart, and it just compares. As you can see, this is the average of efficiency, this is the average of the strength total, and this is the average of the comp total. So you see that the their efficiency went way up, and so did everything. Both their comp total and their strength totals went up. So, well, once again, these are made up numbers, but it just lets you know what's going on. You can quantify. If nothing else, you get buy-in. But it helps you make decisions on mobility. It helps you make decisions on, should I focus on strength or should I focus on, the snatch and clean jerk. Now, if you're a strength and conditioning coach, it would tell me, do I need to get them strong, or do I need to look at doing more explosive work like plyometrics, sprinting? Same thing with reactive strength. If the RSI score shows me that they're not very elastic, then I need to focus on doing more jumping, bounding, and work on that elasticity to make them a greater athlete. You could easily do, you don't have to do a comp total, but you don't have to do a snatch and clean jerk either if you're a strength and conditioning coach. You could easily do, I would have them do maybe a clean and a push press compared to their squat, deadlift, and their strict press. You could make up an efficiency score however you want to do it. And so you would need to look up the numbers, track. What I do is compare everything to the back squat and look at the percentage of the back squat that everything is, since it's normally the highest number. And and then you can easily, if you have that information, develop, some ratio of what your comp total, or for you, your strength total, or your more explosive movement total to your slower strength total, like squatting compared to clean. That would be a good one. Simple. Or clean to deadlift. There's two simple movements that would tell you that score as well. So obviously vertical jump is something we all need to track, but the dynamic strength index. Now we use velocity to look at these two movements, because we can use the vertical jump and we can use a back squat, and I can compare a loaded. Now we don't use a max back squat to do that. We do like a loaded, like 30. You could easily do 40% of your max and do a jump squat compared to a vertical jump. So you have a weighted loaded jump compared to an unloaded jump, and see how those, it's easy if you have a full team, because you can do a team and see where that ratio lies with everyone. And you'll start to see these people are strong, these people are explosive, and these people are perfect in the middle. So if you know anything about power, which is what we're all after, force and velocity have a very unique relationship. If I'm super strong and slow, I don't create a lot of power. If I'm super fast and weak, I don't create a lot of power. But if I'm pretty good at both, then now you have a powerful person that kills you on the football field. So last thing, we also look at the force velocity of the back squat, the deadlift, the front squat, and the strict press. We look at 65%, 70%, 75, 80, 85, 90, and we compare them to the charts that Brian Mann developed. These are obviously fake numbers, by the way, as you can see, because they're nowhere near what they should. Normally, 65% is somewhere around 0.75. I think 70 is somewhere around 0.65. 75 is around 0.6, and then when you're starting to get to 80% accelerated strength, it's going to start dipping down. Should have added his chart, but it's easy. You can Google Brian Mann velocity based training, and you can easily get that chart. But we compare all of our athletes to those charts, and you don't necessarily have to max out. By the time you get to 90%, you'll be able to see the quality of strength that an athlete is lacking. Remember, we talked about in the velocity section of this presentation. But once I target, say if 75% is way slower than it should be, however, 85% and beyond is perfect, then I don't have to go heavy. I can fix this quality of strength and make that person a better athlete. And that goes for weightlifting as well, and we do that. With Ryan Grimsland lately, we haven't squatted heavy hardly at all. And if anybody has noticed, this past Monday, he took a massive jump increase after a solid accumulation and a couple weeks of transmutation. He took a massive jump, and we have not squatted heavy yet. So, for all of you weightlifting coaches, something to think about. So, and the reason why I wanted to do back squat to deadlift, just because somebody's velocity and their movement is good on the back squat, doesn't mean it will be on the deadlift, because I know of plenty of people who can create a lot of power with the back squat. They go to deadlift and it just, in that position for whatever reason, in that stat, obviously they're probably a very elastic person. They probably have great reactive strength, because with the back squat, you get a stretch reflex, and your deadlift, you don't. Something to consider. Front squat also, with that's telling me if the back squat's velocity is perfect, but the front squats is not, that tells me that somebody must have a weak spinal extensors. Their back must be weak, because obviously when the bar is in front of you, that creates the bigger moment arm at the spine, no matter what intervertebral joint you're looking at. So in strict press, I'm just looking at more of a vertical push. I think it's more athletic. I think I might add push press in there. So, but I just wanted to do something just to get an idea if someone's force velocity profile was the same upper as lower. And comparing these numbers really helps me to see where we need to focus on the athlete. Anyway, I hope this presentation has helped you. I think I've given you a lot of the ways that we actually look at these scores and react to them. So don't just see, oh, this person is, their velocity is way slower at 75%. When you see that, go do something about it. Spend a lot of time at 75%. Get them faster. Work on plyometrics. Maybe they need to become more elastic. So use the numbers and compare them with the team. I think creating a little competition is good, and also tells you as a coach, as a team, where does each individual stack up. Hope this helps. One more thing, I want to give a shout out to, this is the study I told you with Kyle Pierce, also Dr. Stone. I don't give him enough credit for that one as I should. I just knew that Kyle was involved with that. If you guys have any questions, feel free to give me an email. It's travis.mash@lr.edu. Don't hesitate to give our guys at Dynamic Fitness and Strength a look. Their equipment, we cannot do it without those guys. And you just got to really appreciate a company that's putting so much emphasis on education and helping guys like me give you guys all this quality information. I appreciate them, and I appreciate you guys. Thanks for thanks for joining us.